My belief is that about 80% of success, or maybe 90%, is caused by either clarity or lack of clarity. If successful people have one common characteristic, they're all very clear about who they are and what they want, and they have clear written plans to achieve their goals in each key area of their life. Unsuccessful, unhappy people who are troubled by stress and anxiety are very unclear about who they are and what they want. And so therefore they move from pillar to post. They're knocked off center very, very easily by unexpected events. So what we do in Focal Point is we start off with the principle of clarity, and we teach how to achieve clarity in the 7 key areas of life. The first area is business and career, in family and personal relationships. What it is you want and how you can get it. In financial life, how do you achieve financial independence, specifically health and fitness? How do you live to 80 or 90 years old? And then we talk about clarity with regard to personal and professional development goals, social and community contribution goals, and inner and spiritual development goals. Therefore, what a person gets is a complete approach to life with clarity in each of the 7 areas, and then they all fold together so that they work in harmony with each other. Most successful people in our society work now 4 or 5 days a week. They take 2 or 3 days off. They take long vacations. They go home at night. They get vastly more done when they work than the average person. Whereas the average person feels overwhelmed with work, too much to do, too little time, completely attacked on all sides by all kinds of conflicting responsibilities, and they can't understand why some people seem to be doing so much better than they are. People who are doing extraordinarily well, they're only 5 and 10 times as much as other people in their fields, and they take lots of vacations. They're relaxed, they're fit, they play golf and tennis, they go to Hawaii or the Caribbean, and you say, how can these people be doing so well and yet be working less than people who are blowing their brains out? And the answer is that they are focusing on the few things that they can do that contribute the greatest value, and they just simply outsource, delegate, eliminate everything else. And as a result, they have lots more time off in their personal life, and they make much more when they work. I realize that all of life is the result of accumulation, and we call this the process of continuous improvement. So we found that if you get a little bit better every day, almost immeasurable, and a little bit better every week, and a little bit better every month over time, like a snowball, it accumulates to a huge amount. And I worked out that if I could become 1/10% better per day, 5 days a week, I'd be 0.5% better at the end of the week. If I did this for 4 weeks in a row, I'd be 2% better at the end of the month. If I did this for an entire year, I'd be 26% better. Like 52 weeks times 0.5% is 26% better. If I did this, and it compounds because of compound interest, if I did this for 2.7 years, I'd be twice as productive. And if I did it for another 2.7 years, I'd be twice as productive again. If I did it for 10 years, I'd be 10 times more productive. I began to go to work, and we teach this in Focal Point. I began to go to work on the most important things that I could get better at. Using my time better, being more focused and punctual, setting better priorities, and learning more things. Well, do you know what happened? I increased my income by 10 times in about 3.5 years. And in the next 7 years, I increased my income by 10 times more. So after 10 years, I was earning not just 10 times as much, but 100 times what I was earning when I started. And I've taught this to people all over the world, and they come back to me and they say after a few years, that's incredible. After 5 years, I'm earning 10 times what I was earning. Next year, I'll be earning 12 times, and then 7 times, 8 times, 9 times. If you get just a little bit better every day by design, not by chance, the cumulative effect in your life is extraordinary. And this explains the great success of all men and women who start with nothing and achieve greatness. A basic time management rule is the 80-20 rule, which says that 80% of your results will come from 20% of your actions or work. So what we help people do right from the beginning is to say, what are the 20% of your activities that contribute 80% of the value of all your work? Let me give you an example. Businessmen will say, 80% of my sales are coming from 20% of my customers. However, it also means that 80% of my expenses are coming from the 20% of my customers. Or the 80% of my customers represent only 20% of my business. So what they do is they fire all the customers, keep the top 20%. The ones where they make the most money, the ones who are the happiest, the ones who complain the least, the ones who pay their bills most rapidly. And then they say, how can we get more customers like these ones in the top 20%? And suddenly their business doubles and triples. As their profits go up, their costs go down, the amount of money and time spent servicing customers diminishes. Everything changes, and changes sometimes in a matter of 30 days. Wow. And in the end, satisfaction goes up. Yes, of course. One of the things I tell people is only sell to the people that you like and enjoy, right? And get rid of anybody else that you don't like and enjoy. Encourage them to go and ruin your competitors' businesses, and ruin your competitors' peace of mind. People say, well, how can you do that? But when you start off in business, you're desperate, so you sell to anybody who will buy. But as you get further along, you realize, hey, wait a minute. A lot of the customers that I'm servicing today are not really great customers. If I had a choice, I wouldn't have them. Good. You have a choice. Help them go somewhere else, right? And use that same energy and concentrate on those customers that are worth 5 and 10 times as much to you as the ones that complain and don't pay their bills. Last month, a woman came through a course. She went to her boss and she said, what do I have to do to double my income? He said, well, we'd have to restructure the work so that you did more and more of this and none of these other things. She said, well, if I do more and more of this and get these results, can you pay me twice as much? He said, you do it, I'll pay you twice as much. She couldn't believe it. She got double her income in one meeting because bosses remember today, if they're worth anything, pay on the basis of results, not hours. So if you can offer to contribute twice the results by working on the things that you do really well and getting rid of everything else, most bosses will pay you. I mean, what the heck? Then you make a list of everything you do, and let's say you do 10 or 15 things, and you ask yourself this question: if I could only do one thing on this list and do it really, really well, what one task or activity would make the greatest contribution to my work? And then you say, well, if I just did that more and more, none of the other things, I could earn twice as much, contribute twice as much as I'm contributing today. So you go to your boss and you say, boss, I've looked over this and I found if I could just do this all day long and do it really well, which I'm committed to do, I could contribute twice as much value. And your boss, who hasn't thought about it, will say, yes, that's true. If you did that all day long and did it really well, you say, well, could I get twice as much money? Say, sure, sure. If you do it, you see many people think, well, I want you to pay me twice as much on the off chance that I will carry out my offer to you. No, what you do is you say, if I do this, will you pay me twice as much? Boss says, sure. There's nothing to lose because you're going to have to contribute vastly more to do it well. Boss will say, sure, I'm a boss. I own 3 companies. If somebody comes to me and says, look, I'll double the sales, I'll double the profitability if you pay me twice as much, I'd say, absolutely. Yeah, no problem. No lose proposition, right? That's great. Another concept you talk about that really got me thinking was this idea of zero-based thinking. And many people have heard that applied to looking at a business. Can you talk about it though? Number 1, what is zero-based thinking? And how do you apply it to your personal life to really help to restructure and reinvent your own life? Well, I think that zero-based thinking is perhaps the finest thinking tool that a person can have for the rest of their life. And it's very simple. You look at any part of your world and you ask yourself, is there anything that I'm doing today that, knowing what I now know, I wouldn't start up again today if I had to do it over again today? Well, it's a very simple question. And the way that you can tell if you have a zero-based thinking situation in your life is stress. Is wherever you experience chronic stress, that means stress that nags at you day in and day out. You say, with this person, situation, job, activity, knowing what I now know, Would I start again if I had to do it over? And if the answer is no, I wouldn't, then the next question is, how do you get out and how fast? Because there's a rule that things left to themselves get worse. They don't just clear up. It's amazing how many people are sitting in a bad situation hoping that things will just clear up, they'll get better. Someone will come along and resolve the situation, it'll go away. So I say there are 3 key areas. Ask yourself, is there any relationship in your life, business or personal, that knowing what you now know, you wouldn't get into? Most of our stress in life comes from unhappy relationships that aren't working out. That's at work or at home. And if there is, then the question is, how do you get out of this and how fast? Because there's a rule that we teach. People don't change. People are what they are. They've always been that way. They'll never be any different. So don't hang all of your hopes for happiness on the off chance that somebody might change, because they're not going to change. That's the way they are. The second area we say is with regard to your business. Is there any product or service? Is there any process or expense or advertising or anything that you're doing today that, knowing what you now know, you wouldn't get into? Let me give an example. One of our students was commissioned by his company to find a way to improve the efficiency of their nationwide network of warehouses. He knew nothing about it, but he went in. His starting point was, should we have all these warehouses in the first place? And then what he found, because of Federal Express, because of UPS, because of flights and everything else, when the company started, they needed 12 warehouses to cover the country. However, he recommended that instead of improving the efficiency of the warehouses, they get rid of 10 of them. Have one warehouse square in the middle of the West in Denver, one warehouse square in the middle of the East, say Memphis or Atlanta, and service the whole country. Get rid of all the others and dramatically increase their efficiencies, which they did, and they saved $275 million. Wow. Keep asking, in any part of your life, should we be in this area at all? And if not, how do we get out and how fast? It's great. Those are great questions to ask. You're also well known for acronyms, and perhaps the best acronym that I found that describes focal point was the Grand Slam method. The word SLAM is the key. It has 4 letters, SLAM, which stands for simplify, leverage, accelerate, and multiply. Now, simplify means that you're constantly looking for ways to simplify your work and your personal life. We show that every additional step in any process dramatically increases the complexity of the process and the length of time it takes to do it. So we show people a whole new way of thinking in terms of simplification, and there's much more to it than that. The second is leverage. How do you leverage yourself? How do you leverage yourself times other people, times other people's knowledge, times other people's money, times other people's energy, times other people's skill, and so on? Because all successful people leverage themselves. They use themselves leveraged against other people to get vastly more done than the average person. The third letter is accelerate. It means do it faster. We find that you can do a task slowly or quickly with the same level of quality. So we find that all successful people move fast. All unsuccessful people move slowly or when they get around to it. And the fourth letter is multiply. How do you multiply yourself? How do you delegate? How do you outsource? How do you eliminate? How do you downsize? How do you use every resource in your environment to multiply your ability? And these are the 4 keys: simplify, leverage, accelerate, and multiply, that enable people to go from rags to riches in 1 generation. We teach a complete process of time management that's a little bit different from other people, but it basically forces you to think through everything you have to do before you begin. Other than that, you'll have a tendency to react impulsively, and if you react impulsively, you'll find yourself spending more and more time on items of less and less value, right? And pretty soon the day is gone and you haven't accomplished anything of importance. So therefore, the key to acceleration is to be very clear about what's most important and then do it quickly and do it now. In times of rapid change, you also have times of great turbulence, which means that all bets are off all the time. One of my favorite lines is that in this modern economy, you have to be willing to throw out all your assumptions every 3 weeks because things are changing so quickly. One new piece of information can totally change all of your thinking. One new competitive strategic step with a new product, a new service, a new advertisement, a slashed price can totally change what you do in your business. So you can spend weeks and months coming to a conclusion, but some external event can force you to change quickly to survive. And that's why flexibility means you've got to be willing to constantly be open to the possibility that you're on the wrong track. With new information, you've got to be open to the possibility there's a better way that you have to change. And people who are flexible are far more open, they're far more creative, they're far more optimistic than people who are inflexible and rigid in their thinking. So again, the Management Institute has said that flexibility is the most important single quality for success in the 21st century. Some years ago, we started a program in San Diego called the Focal Point Advanced Coaching and Mentoring Program. And what the program is based upon is really 4 keys. The first is clarity. And we find that if people become extremely clear about what they want in each area of their life and crystallize it into goals with standards of performance and action steps, they begin to move ahead at an incredible rate. The second part that we teach in the coaching program is what we call simplification, which is to simplify your life so that you can take vastly more time off. As you know, we call this the double-double formula, how you can double your income and double your time off at the same time. And it seems counterintuitive, as we talked about, because it's hard for people to think that by working less, I can earn more. But we do have people who come through our program, and we say that in a year to 2 years, you'll achieve this goal. Many of them achieve it in 30 days. Some people literally walk into the program and walk out the next day transformed. Simplify it dramatically. Stop doing things that are of no value. Just cut them off like a meat cleaver chunk. Just stop doing them. And then start focusing on getting better and better at the 1 or 2 things they do that pay them the most. And suddenly their incomes double and their time off increases dramatically. Their relationships with their families improve. They have more time for health, vacations, travel. It's almost amazing. One of the things that people have to understand is the whole purpose of working is to support your ideal lifestyle. So in the first part of the program, Clarity, we help people define, what is my ideal lifestyle? If my lifestyle were perfect, if I had millions of dollars in the bank and I could do anything I wanted to do, what would it look like? And then we bring it right down to reality and we say, what steps could we take today to begin creating that perfect lifestyle? Then we show you how you can simplify. One of our principles is that the only way you can simplify your life is by stopping doing things. You can't do more things more efficiently and effectively. You have to stop things that are muddying up your life. The third principle we teach is what is called maximize. How do you maximize your talents, abilities, skills, opportunities so that you're getting the very, very most out of the energy that you put in? Remember, some people work 8 hours a day and make $25,000. Another person working in the same company, out of the same company, out of the same office, working with the same customers will make $250,000. And they're selling the same product to the same people at the same price under the same conditions. They're working at desks next to each other. One person makes 10 times as much as the other. Why? That's what we explain. Let me show you how to do it. And the final part is what I call leverage. How do you leverage yourself? How do you get the very most out of every part of your life? And the coaching process is really interesting because people, first of all, do pre-work. In other words, they answer a series of questions so they come fully prepared. And then they do 8 hours of work with me, and other very successful people come out with an action blueprint, which they then follow for the next 3 months. Then they come back after 3 months and do it again. What happens is within 1 year, people's lives transform. Sometimes, as I say, within 30 days, sometimes in 24 hours. Because for the first time, it's like somebody ran inside their brain and turned on all the lights of their possibilities, and suddenly they can see themselves in their life better than ever before. So one of my favorite stories, which is in the program, is a gentleman, an old friend of mine, working his heart out 12, 14 hours a day, 6, 7 days a week, and never spending any time with his family. He hadn't taken a vacation in 4 years. He came through the focal point process with his arms folded, very skeptical that it's possible to work less and make more money. But he realized that it was true. And so he did what all superior people do. He acted on new information. Most people will hear what we talk about but not act on it. But the very best people will take it and run with it like a football player catching a fumble and running for yards. Well, he went back and he analyzed his clients. He realized that it was not 80-20. It was 90-10. About 90% of his business was coming from 10% of his clients. So he decided to just draw a line at the 20 mark, took his bottom 80% of clients and began to parcel them out like dealing cards to other small companies that could service them better. He began then to really focus on his top clients and to really work them for referrals. Who else do you know at your level who would be interested in working with me and my company? And you know what they said? I'm glad you asked because I've been willing to tell you for years. You just never ask. So he began getting referrals like a frog jumping from lily pad to lily pad. He began getting referrals from top people to top people to top people to top people. In less than 6 months, he tripled his income. He increased his time off to 1 week per month. He started taking vacations with his family. He started exercising again. He's just lost 22 pounds. He literally transformed his life and his income went up by 3 times. There is a single secret of success, and it is this. Do what you resolve to do, what you have decided to do. Fulfill your promises to yourself. If you say you're going to get up early in the morning and exercise, just do what you said you would do. If you say you're going to save, then save your money. If you say you're going to write down your goals, do it. If you're going to listen to audio programs in your car, just darn well do what you resolve to do. Complete, fulfill your commitments to yourself, and your whole life will be wonderful.
Here's the definition of success and failure. Just make this note. Here's failure, a few errors in judgment repeated every day. Now, you can automatically assume, Mr. Owen, I say, I can understand that. A few errors in judgment repeated every day for 6 years. I'm with my father. I think I told the story the last time I was here. My father, 88 years old, he's never been ill, still hasn't retired. Not long ago, midnight, we're getting ready to go to bed. We've drilled a new well, got some extra water, got some more acres going. He's all excited at midnight. We're getting ready to go to bed. My father's eating what he calls his midnight snack, a little bite to eat before you go to bed. Don't have to go to bed hungry. And I'm watching him eat this midnight snack. Guess what he had? An apple, a few graham crackers, and a glass of grapefruit juice. I said to my father, so healthy. My mom taught us all those good health practices, taught me when I was growing up. Right? I'm an only child, I've never been ill. That's the big 50 some time ago. My 2 daughters, 32, 33, never been ill. My grandkids never been ill. I'm telling you, the legacy lingers on. As I watched my father have this midnight snack, suddenly it occurred to me, I know that's part of it. An apple a day. That's gotten to Dallas-Fort Worth, right? An apple a day keeps the doctor away. Good question for this intelligent audience. What if that's true? You say, oh, well, Mr. Owen, if that's true, that would be easy to do. Then what's the problem? It's easy not to do. It's easy not to adopt it as your own personal philosophy. Or the guy next door says a Hershey bar a day. Say, oh no, you've been watching too much television. It is not Hershey bar. You've got to be smarter in philosophy than to fall for the Hershey bar a day when it's an apple a day. You've got to be smarter than that. And if you make that kind of an error in judgment every day for 6 years, I'm telling you, it'll accumulate into disaster. Sometimes in the first year you say, well, you know, I'm so healthy now. What difference is it going to make? You've got to be smarter than that. Just because disaster doesn't fall on us at the end of the first day doesn't mean disaster isn't coming. You've got to be so smart that you look down the road and say, will the errors in my present judgment or philosophy, what's that going to cost me in 1 year? 6 years? 1 month? 6 months? I'm telling you, The money cost and the health cost and the success cost is too gigantic. If you look down the road a little ways and say, are there errors in my current judgment? Like an apple versus a Hershey bar? Is that just a good illustration of some of the rest of my errors in judgment? If it is, that's where I found myself at age 25. I started working when I was 19. I met my teacher who helped turn my life around when I was 25. That's 6 years. At the end of the first 6 years of my economic life, I've got pennies in my pocket. I've got nothing in the bank. The creditors are calling saying, hey, you told us the check was in the mail. I'm embarrassed. I'm behind on my promises. I live in America. I'm a 25-year-old American male. I've got a nice family, every reason to do well, and I messed up. Now what's messed up? I used to think it was the community that was messed up, and the country was messed up, and the government was messed up. If those Democrats ever get in the White House, that'll really mess things up. If the Republicans stay in power, that'll really mess things up. The economy was messed up. Interest rates were messed up. I thought all this stuff was messed up. Then I found out that's not what was messed up. I was criticizing the only thing I had to work with. What was really messed up was my own personal philosophy, my own errors in judgment. And my own personal philosophy brought me, in 6 years, 2 pennies in my pocket, nothing in the bank, and trying to explain why I wasn't doing well living in America. A 25-year-old American male got a family, every reason to do well. Once I understood this, here's the formula for failure. Errors in judgment, being lax about developing your own personal philosophy, killing. It's called accumulated disaster. It doesn't matter whether it's your health or your bank account. A guy's got an empty bank account, probably has high cholesterol. Why? Over the last 6 years, he never paid attention to either one. And it doesn't matter whether it's a dollar, whether it's your money, or whether it's your cholesterol counts. All you've got to do is commit the errors. And just because disaster doesn't fall on you at the end of the first day that you don't eat an apple. You say, well, I didn't eat an apple today and tonight I'm not ill. Well, you've got to be brighter than that. Someday you've got to leave first grade. Reason we make those first grade desks so small so they won't fit at age 25. I mean, right? You don't belong here anymore. Let me give you the secret to success, the formula for failure. A few errors in judgment repeated every day for 1 month starts the weakness, starts the disaster process. You can imagine what happens in 6 years and every other habit that you've got. If you'll start that process, eliminate the errors, and replace it with disciplines practiced, I'm telling you, you can start this process of life change immediately after today. You don't ever have to be the same again, only by choice. You don't have to walk out of here the same as you walked in today, only by choice. You can start a whole new process. And you say, well, Mr. Oh, and is it that simple? Yes, it's that simple. Where else would you start but with an apple? You don't have to start with something staggering. What if you should be walking around the block for your good health and you don't? What'll that do in 6 years? I'm telling you, the word is disaster. You could and you should and you don't. Here's an even stronger word. You won't. I mean, nope. Might mean you're careless. Won't probably means you're stubborn, and either one is called disaster. Could, should, don't. I'm telling you. That's why at the end of 5 years, 6 years, I found myself with pennies in my pocket. Nothing in the bank. Creditors calling. Could, should, won't. Could, should, don't is called disaster. Now, how do you change all that? The next 6 years, I got rich. The next 6 years, I became a millionaire by the time I'm 31. I'm a millionaire. How about that? You say, well, Mr. Owen, what happened? Well, strangely enough, during that second 6 years of my economic life, the government was about the same. I'm telling you, taxes were about the same. My negative relatives were nothing. I'm telling you, the economy was about the same, and prices were about the same, and everything else was about the same. Circumstances were about the same. Then how come I got rich? How come I totally changed my life? I was not the same. Somebody says, well, what did you go to work on to do all that? I started with my philosophy. I started amending my errors by doing some better thinking, changing my mind, and coming up with ideas that I didn't have before I met my teacher. And once that whole process started for me, I'm telling you, I changed my whole life within a 6-year period. I was never the same, and I've kept up that process all these years. One of the reasons why I'm here is to continue my craft. I don't want the day to come someday somebody says, "You should have heard Jim Rohn 10 years ago when he was really terrific." I want people to say, "I heard him 10 years ago, but you should hear him now." I'm telling you, the man works on his craft. I'm telling you, the man's done some extra reading. I'm telling you, the man doesn't miss a trick. I'm telling you, he's worked hard on himself. That's why he's able to deliver like he does. The same thing can happen for you as a teenager. It can happen to you as a mother, as a father, as a business person, as a salesperson. Running a business doesn't matter, management, wherever you find yourself. This is the process called personal change. And what I say to start with is start with your own philosophy. Your philosophy is going to determine whether or not you go for the disciplines or continue the errors. That's called potential disaster. And everybody has it within their power. What was so happy for me to find out at age 25, Mr. Show said. "Mr. Owen, you don't have to change country, but you do have to change velocity. And if you'll change philosophy, not country, you can turn around your income. You can turn around your bank account. You can turn around your skills. You can become capable, powerful, sophisticated, healthy, influential, all the other equities that you could possibly want out of your life using the only stuff there is and not trying to change any of this stuff. Appreciate all of this stuff with all of its ups and downs, with all of its mystery of why it works and sometimes it doesn't work. Don't challenge this. You don't have to ask for another planet. You don't have to ask for another country. Just ask for another book. Ask for another seminar. Ask for another idea. And you can start this whole process of personal life change. Now, I can spend the whole day on philosophy. That's where it is. If I could get you intrigued with that enough to study it, enough to ponder it, to where you'd pick up the commitment like I did. Say, hey, as simple as an apple a day, as simple as a walk around the block? Why not start right there? If you don't start there, where else are you going to start? Might as well start where it's easy and then go to the more complicated discipline. Because if you can't handle the complicated, the simple disciplines, how can you handle the complicated thoughts? Held in mind, produce after their kind. What you think becomes your reality. Earl Nightingale in his audio program, The Strangest Secret, says that you become what you think about. Ralph Waldo Emerson summarized this idea more than 100 years ago. Dimension of your external life. If you want to be happy, you need to clearly define for yourself and create the mental equivalent or picture of exactly what happiness means to you. If you wish to enjoy health and long life or happy relationships or financial prosperity, you need to create in your mind an exact, detailed picture of what you desire, as a result of a whole series of other laws that I'll be discussing. This becomes the critical starting point that begins inevitably to lead you to the realization of your dreams and goals.
The fourth law of success is called the law of correspondence. This law has been talked about for perhaps 4,000 years, and it's one of the fundamental laws that explains human experience. It simply says that as within, so without. It says that your outer life will tend to be a mirror image of your inner life. Your external world will tend to correspond almost exactly to what is going on inside both your conscious and subconscious minds. There are four major areas where you see the law of correspondence working all the time. The first is simply in your attitude. Whatever your attitude is, often before you even say anything, people will reflect it back to you in the way they talk to you, in the way they talk to you and treat you. As within, so without. The second area where the law of correspondence is evident is in your relationships. Your relationships will almost perfectly mirror your attitude and your personality. If you're a good and happy person, you'll have good and happy relationships. As you become a more patient and tolerant and loving person, your relationships will reflect this almost immediately, very much as a mirror will do. The third area of correspondence that you see is in your health. Much of your health can be directly traced to specific attitudes that cause you to suffer from minor and major illnesses. The extensive work that's been done in the area of holistic medicine seems to suggest that there are corresponding attitudes of mind for most illnesses that you or I suffer from, the common cold and flu, all the way up to the most serious illnesses that are often life-threatening. Whenever you're anxious or upset or unhappy for any reason, for any period of time, your body will begin to reflect those feelings. The entire basis of psychosomatic medicine is the conclusion that your mind, psycho, makes your body, soma, sick. What your mind harbors, your body eventually expresses. The fourth application of the law of correspondence is that your external world of material accomplishment will exactly correspond to your internal world of preparation. The more knowledge and skill you gain that helps you to be more effective in your work, the more you will be paid. You can't hope to acquire or achieve anything more on the outside until you've acquired it or achieved it on the inside. The law of correspondence reigns supreme. The fifth law of success is the law of belief, which says that whatever you believe with emotion becomes your reality. You always have a tendency to act in a manner consistent with your innermost beliefs and convictions. Your beliefs, in fact, act like a filter or a screen that edits out incoming information and only allows into your conscious awareness the things that you've already decided are true about yourself and the world. William James of Harvard said, "Belief creates the actual fact." In the Bible, it says, "Whatever a man thinketh in his heart, so is he." For example, if you absolutely believe that you are meant to be a great success in life and that no matter what happens, nothing can stop you from achieving the greatness that is yours, you'll act in a manner consistent with that belief, and you'll eventually make it come true. If you doubt your ability to be successful for any reason, this negative belief will be demonstrated in your tendency to hold yourself back. The most important part of the law of belief is the necessity for you to question your own self-limiting beliefs. These are the beliefs that act like the brakes on your potential. These are the nagging doubts and fears that people have about themselves and their abilities that cause them to sell themselves short. When you have self-limiting beliefs, you have a tendency to settle for far less than you may be capable of. Self-limiting beliefs revolve around your ability to lose weight or quit smoking or earn a certain amount of money or be attractive to members of the opposite sex or develop new abilities that are more conducive to your success and happiness. One of the most important steps you can take toward achieving great success is for you to question these self-limiting beliefs. You might even ask others who know you well what self-limiting beliefs they seem to think that you have that may be holding you back. Remember, self-limiting beliefs are often used as excuses. A good way to test your self-limiting beliefs is to ask yourself whether anyone else with the limitations you perceive you have has nonetheless gone on to achieve success. You can also look at your own actions to decide what it is that you truly value. Remember, it's not what you say or hope or wish or intend that is a true expression of your value. You only truly believe what you do. Your actions do speak far more loudly than your words. For example, if you truly believe in the values of persistence and dedication, it'll be evident in the things that you do every single day. If you truly believe in the values of honesty and integrity and self-discipline, you'll demonstrate these qualities in your every behavior. In fact, you can tell what a person values by looking at what they did in the past when the pressure was on. It's only when they're forced to make a choice that you know what it is you really value. For example, when you have to choose between family and work, or between money and work, or between money and honesty, your true values come out. The wonderful and important thing about your values is that you can develop them in yourself by disciplining yourself to act consistent with them, even if you haven't yet made them a fixed part of your character. I'll explain this later in the program. The seventh law of success is the law of motivation, which says that everything you do is triggered by inner desires and urges and instincts, many of which may be at an unconscious level, and your attitudes and behaviors will be determined by your dominant motivations, by what you really want and need in life, not by what you think you want. This is an extension of the law of values, and it's very important for you to understand. There's a simple formula called the ABC formula of human motivation and human action. The ABC stands for antecedents, behavior, and consequences. The antecedents are the things that happen before the behavior. The behaviors are the things you do. The consequences are what happens as a result of your behavior. We know that psychologically only about 15% of your motivation comes from the antecedents, from what you read or learn or are told to do or not do. However, about 85% of your motivation comes from your expectations, what you think will happen. It's Your beliefs about the consequences, about the future, that cause you to behave in a certain way. The clearer you are about the consequences of your actions, and the more intensely you desire to enjoy the consequences that your behaviors may lead to, the more motivated you'll be. This is why it's so important to have absolute clarity with regard to your goals in each area of your life in order for you to be motivated to perform at your very best. An important point with regard to the APSE formula is that your behaviors are not guaranteed to achieve the consequences that you desire, but every behavior or action that you engage in will generate a consequence of some kind. One of the most important parts of understanding motivation and behavior is to realize that both actions and inactions have consequences. What you do as well as what you fail to do will have a consequence in your future, and sometimes the consequences can be dramatic and long-lasting. A good exercise in success is for you to write out a description of the type of person that you'd like to be and the kind of life that you'd like to be living. The most powerful faculty that you'd like to be living, the most powerful faculty that you have is your ability to think, your ability to understand. The more accurately you can think about who you are and what you want to accomplish and how to accomplish it, the more effective and successful you will be. The eighth law of success is the law of subconscious activity, and it has several applications. The first part of this law is that whatever thought or idea mixed with emotion you hold in your conscious mind will be accepted as a command by your subconscious mind, will be accepted as a command by your subconscious mind. This means that whatever thought, idea, or goal you can hold in your mind on a continuing basis, you can have because your subconscious mind will go to work to organize all of your thoughts and actions to bring it into your reality. If you desire to earn or attain a certain amount of money and you think about it continually day and night, and you use every means possible to drive this desire or hope deep into your subconscious mind will begin committing more and more of its reserve capacity toward bringing that goal or desire into your life. The second part of the law of subconscious activity is that your subconscious mind, once you give it the proper commands, will trigger your reticular cortex and its function, the reticular activating system. Your reticular cortex is a small finger, like part of your brain that alerts you to events and circumstances around you that are consistent with your dominant desires or concerns. For example, if you decided that you wanted to buy a red sports car, this desire would signal to your reticular cortex that red sports cars are now of paramount importance to you. From that moment on, you would see red sports cars everywhere. Even a block away, you would become extremely alert and sensitive to red sports cars, as well as to the means of attaining one of them. If one of your goals is to achieve financial independence and you imbue this goal with intense desire, also controls your body language and your tone of voice. Professor Moravian of the University of California, Santa Barbara has concluded that when you communicate with others, fully 55% of the message you send is contained in your body language, 38% of the message you send is contained in your tone of voice, and only 7% of the message you send is contained in your tone of voice, and only 7% of the message is contained in the actual words that you use. And your body language and tone of voice are largely controlled by messages about yourself and your goals that you've sent to your subconscious mind as the result of the way you think and feel. For example, when you've had a success of any kind, you send a charge of emotional energy to your subconscious mind that tells it that you're a winner. For some time afterwards, you walk and talk and act and think like a winner. Your step will be brisker, your voice will be stronger, your eyes will be more focused, and your body language will signify this belief about yourself. Your subconscious mind will accept your predominant emotional thoughts and organize your entire body, voice, and tone to fit a pattern consistent with it. The ninth law of success is the law of expectations. It's often called the law of the self-fulfilling prophecy. It's one of the most powerful of all laws because of its simplicity and its predictability. This law simply says that whatever you expect with confidence will have a tendency to materialize in your life. You get not what you want, but what you expect with the greatest intensity. For this reason, an attitude of positive self-expectancy seems to go hand in hand with great success in every area of your life. The wonderful thing about the law of expectations is that you have the power to manufacture your own expectations. You can decide to expect only good things to happen to you. You can walk and talk and act as though you believe the entire world was conspiring to help you achieve your goals. You can become what W. Clement Stone is often referred to as an inverse paranoid. you can become convinced that the entire world is conspiring to do you good. The way that you apply the law of expectations is by constantly looking for the good in every person in every situation. When you have a temporary setback, you can look into the setback for the valuable lesson that it might contain. Instead of becoming upset, you can say to yourself something like, I believe in the perfect outcome of every situation in my life. This kind of affirmation causes you to affirmation you do with a more positive and open and optimistic attitude. The most powerful of all expectations are the expectations you have of yourself. You should approach everything you do with an attitude of calm, confident self-expectancy. You should expect to be successful more times than you're unsuccessful. Expect to win more times than you lose, and expect to eventually achieve your goals if you carry on long enough. The 10th law of success, which applies to many other areas of life, is called the law of concentration. It says that whatever you concentrate on and think about repeatedly with emotion tends to become more and more a part of your inner and outer life. Some of the most important work in psychology shows that if you dwell upon qualities that you wish to develop, like courage and sincerity and persistence, you tend to actually build those qualities brick by brick into your character and personality. The law of concentration goes hand in hand with the law of subconscious activity, and it largely explains the person that you are today. Whatever you've concentrated on in the past and are concentrating on in the present is having a major impact on your conduct and behavior. What you concentrate on largely determines the quality and quantity of the results that you get and the success that you enjoy. The 11th law of success is the law of habit. It says that virtually everything that you do is automatic and unthinking. You are largely a creature of habit. It says that from the time you get up in the morning to the time you go to bed at night, you have a tendency to follow the path of least resistance and to do the things that you've become accustomed to doing in the past. You eat the same foods for breakfast, you brush your teeth with the same toothpaste, you take the same route to work, you greet people with the same words, you go to lunch at the same time, you work in the same way. Now, there's nothing wrong with establishing habits that enable you to simplify your life. In fact, your life becomes successful to the degree to which many of the things you once needed to concentrate on, such as driving your car, have become automatic and unthinking. When you make certain things habitual, so they no longer require thought, your mind then becomes free to concentrate on other things that can be more helpful to you in achieving the things that you really want.
There are several parts of the law of habit, and the first of these is that good habits are hard to form, but easy to live with. The second part is that bad habits are easy to form, but hard to live with. It's one of the hardest of all things to change. Our bad habits probably leading you to failure. The way that you overcome bad habits is simply to override them by the development of new, more positive habits. For example, if you have a golf swing that's causing your ball to go into the rough, you can override that habitual swing by taking lessons and learning how to hit the ball differently. If you have a habit of getting up later than you should, you can override that habit by repeatedly getting up earlier until that new behavior becomes the habit that dominates your thinking and your actions. It's by practicing the law of concentration in conjunction with the law of habit and thinking continually about how you would be with a new habit or behavior. You drive this message into your subconscious mind, and you eventually begin to behave in a manner consistent with the new habits you wish to form. This brings us to the 12th law, one of the most important of all the laws of success, and that is the law of attraction. The law of attraction says that you are a living magnet and that you inevitably attract into your life the people, events, and circumstances that harmonize with your dominant thoughts. This is why we say that whatever you can hold in your mind on a continuing basis, you can have. It's whatever thought you hold clearly and mix with emotion. Begin setting up a force field of mental energy that begins drawing towards you the things that you need to achieve that goal. This law of attraction has been written about for hundreds, if not thousands of years. It's contained in the old folk sayings like attracts like, or like begets like, or you've perhaps heard birds of a feather flock together. My friend Mark Victor Hansen says that whatever you want wants you. These are all ways of saying that your mind is extremely powerful and that whatever you think, emotionalized, becomes a form of energy like a magnet that's attracting the events and circumstances you experience into your life. In music, the law of attraction is often referred to as the law of sympathetic resonance. It explains, for example, that if you have two pianos in a large room and you hit the key of C, on one of the pianos and then walk across the room to the other piano. The C note or string on the second piano will be vibrating in perfect harmony or resonance with the SECS string on the first piano. One of the most common examples of this law is when you enter a room full of people and you almost invariably have a sympathetic resonance or attraction with someone else in the room. You'll have a tendency to gravitate toward a person with whom you are comfortable and compatible, and that person will have a tendency to gravitate towards you. It's very often two single people at a social gathering will have a level of sympathetic resonance that draws them toward each other and into conversation. It's by the same token, when you have a very clear goal or idea, you will tend to attract people to you and be attracted to people who have ideas and information and resources that can help you to realize that goal. Another illustration of the law of attraction is its opposite, which is the law of repulsion. When you begin to become a particular kind of person because of the way you change your thinking, you will find yourself attracted to people who are similar to you, and you will also find yourself repelling and being repelled by people who don't think the way you do. This law explains why positive people tend to associate with other positive people and why negative people tend to associate with other negative people and why neither group finds the other group of very much interest. You can begin to fill your life with the kind of people that you respect and admire by simply becoming the kind of person in your thoughts that will attract them to you. The 13th law of success is the law of choice, which says that you are always free to choose the content of your conscious mind, but in doing so, you are choosing every other part of your life. Your thoughts control your reality. And since no one else but you can think for you, the thoughts that you choose to harbor determine everything that happens in your life. The wonderful thing about the law of choice is that it says that you have complete freedom to think and therefore to be anything that you intensely desire. The choice is always up to you. The law of choice also says that you are where you are and what you are because you have chosen to be there. If you're not happy with where you are and what you are, it's up to you to choose to be and do something else. The 14th law of success is the law of optimism, which simply says that a positive mental attitude goes hand in hand with success and happiness in virtually every dimension of life. The quality of optimism is the quality that makes you into a cheerful and pleasant person, a person that other people like and want to be around and help. The most successful men and women tend to be very likable people. The more optimistic you are, the happier you'll be moment to moment, and the more things you'll be willing to attempt. The 15th law of success, the law of change, says simply that change is inevitable. The only constant we have in life is that of change. Everything is changing even as you listen to this tape. But the wonderful thing about the law of change is that nothing is fixed either. All progress requires change. And since change is happening in any case, you can be and have and do anything you want by simply harnessing the forces of change and taking advantage of it. The law of change also says that your life can only get better when you get better, but not until. It says that you can't remain the same and somehow improve. The law says that if you don't take advantage of change, you will end up being the victim of change. Things will happen over which he paid for his average lifestyle, and like most average people, he was going nowhere with his life. Then one day, something happened to him. Perhaps he read a book that woke him up, or listened to an audio program, or attended a motivational seminar. Whatever it was, he wasn't the same afterwards. He realized that he could choose to do and be something else. He applied the law of choice. By the law of change, he realized that his life could only improve if he began changing in a positive direction. Using the law of cause and effect, he made some decisions about what he wanted to accomplish and then began searching out the causes of the effects he desired. By the law of optimism, he was positive toward himself and its possibilities. He expected good things to happen, triggering the law of expectations. He went to work on his thinking, and he began to dwell by the law of concentration on his ideal lifestyle. By the law of subconscious activity, he began to walk and talk like the person he envisioned himself becoming. He also began noticing opportunities to advance himself that he hadn't seen before. As he changed his thinking, he triggered the law of mind and the law of mental equivalency, and he created a clear picture of his goals. By the law of correspondence, his outer world began to reflect his new, improved inner world. His beliefs about himself began to change, and by the law of attraction, people and resources began to appear to help him move toward his goal. As he concentrated on his desires, his values and motivations changed, and he began developing the kind of habits that lead to success. In no time at all, by bringing his life into alignment and harmony with the laws of success, he began moving forward at a rate that surprised even him, and so can you. The laws of success are based on the foundational principle that in order for you to succeed, you must first decide what success means to you. You can then begin to apply these laws to your definition of success to bring it more rapidly into your reality. Get off of Instagram and Snap and get off all these blogs. Get into something that can really, really move your life forward. Getting successful is not a magic trick. The difference between successful people and non-successful people is here. If you want to be successful, you have to change this. This has to change. It's not what makes it hard. It's your lack of belief that it can happen for you. So if you're at a place in your life and you aren't happy with it, you have to change some things. You have to make a conscious, interesting decision that you're going to change, and it's not dependent on anybody else. You get to decide if you're going to be rich, poor, mediocre, plentiful, happy, sad. It's really not important what the majority of people that are blogging are saying. As a matter of fact, bloggers are not relevant people. So when you spend so much time in the blog world, the Instagram world, the chat world, all of this, you're wasting valuable time. I was young and I had what you have, and you're the brightest group of young people that have come along in a long time. Man, millennials are absolutely brilliant because you all have technology. Oh God, Google. You can Google anything. You all have stuff at your fingertips that can make you great. But if you could combine your technology with your parents and your grandparents' work ethic, you could be rich. You could be rich, man, but you cannot erase the work ethic part. I hate it when I see young people wasting their time, wasting all this technology, just sitting around in this world that's been created for you, that everything is instant. You've got to understand that success. You can't Google success. You can't Google it, man. I've seen stuff hopefully you'll never see, and I've seen some things I hope one day you do see, but go Google exposure. It ain't gonna take you nowhere. I have a life of convenience now, but in order to get the life of convenience, you've got to have a very uncomfortable life. Stop trying to do everything the short way. Stop trying to figure out the easy way because it ain't gonna happen. You gotta get messed up sometimes. You gotta get dirty. You gotta get your feelings hurt. You gotta get disappointed. You gotta get told no. But at least then when I see somebody trying and I tell them no, I try to at least give them something else. Once you get this, y'all, you can change everything. Negativity, you can protect yourself from negativity, and that's what stops most people. For all seen, it's a real simple exercise to do. I do it every morning before I walk out the door, so I walk out as a positive. I get tired sometimes because I get mentally drained from my job at times, but to coach your mind from negativity, the way you can put a coating around your mind is with one simple: gratitude. Gratitude erases negativity. If you wake up in the morning and start having negative thoughts, I'm tripping, I just don't feel myself. Every time you feel in the middle of the day, if you feel yourself doing that, stop. Just stop for a second and start going over in your mind everything you have to be grateful for, everything you already have. You can walk, that's a blessing. You woke up, that's another blessing. The fact that you can see, think, reason, that's another blessing. You can go somewhere and get yourself something to eat, that's another blessing. The ability to dream is a blessing. Start coating your mind with gratitude. It can change everything for you.